Hi, welcome to Heat Engineer Software first podcast. We're going to start exploring some questions about how the software came about and what kind of struggles we've had and what success we've had as well.
When I came across Heat Engineer to begin with, I thought, crikey, this is an absolute breath of fresh air, really.
That was definitely a highlight, a realisation that's like, this needs to be a bit of kit, this needs to be an app software.
I was saying this is just easy and it's intuitive and it just works.
You know, tech. How often does tech change?
It's a living organism for
it is,
sure.
isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
This is in version 1.
I missed version 1.
That's
You said you weren't going to talk about version 1 and 2.
There's always going to be a lot more stability and strength when you have your own internal team.
Working with Heat Engineer has allowed us to sort of inspire new development.
On that note, I think that's a wrap. Hi, welcome to Heat Engineer Software first podcast, and today we've got some of the staff involved and also we've got a customer. We're going to start exploring some questions about how the software came about and how the team worked together and what kind of struggles we've had and what success we've had as well. So we've got various questions. Going to first of all introduce Kyle and Bradley. Kyle, could you explain to the audience who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Kyle. I've been at Heat Engineer now for about 2 years. I'm lead software engineer, focused on building the web application.
Hi, I'm Bradley. I'm a software engineer, and I've been at the company just a little over a year now and just been focused on building the web application along with Kyle.
Nice.
Good stuff. And in the background, we have got Jamie and Jay sitting there. They're looking after the production side of things. So they're still here. So we're trying to get as many people involved. And we've got Dave, one of our customers, who you will hear more about him shortly. Anyway, so we've got a couple of questions. I believe the first question is kind of aimed at me, Kyle, isn't it?
So I guess what sort of inspired you to create Heat Engineer?
When I was a consultant 9 or 10 years ago, I had, there was lots of opportunity for me to make several improvements throughout my kind of process I was using. So I was using like spreadsheets, doing calculations. And of course, this was all to do with the room by room heat loss calculations, that kind of process. There was a big demand because MCS just about came out. So MCS being the heat pump standard. But everyone was using spreadsheets. And I think, there was like a sort of definitely an issue with that, like anyone does with a spreadsheet. There's always kind of limitations in the sense that you want to make things quicker and easier to use. So out of it, I ended up thinking, well, hang on a minute. The next step really has to be some software. Because every week I was finding I was making improvements to this spreadsheet. And it was getting more complex, except although it was getting more complex from a user's perspective, it was making my life a lot easier as a consultant. So I do the calculations quicker and creates the report into PDF. But people wanted that spreadsheet. And I was like, I'm not going to give you the spreadsheet. Even like 300, 500 quid, have your spreadsheet. I was like, no, you're not having it, no. So I think that was definitely a highlight, a realization that's like, this needs to be a bit of kit. This needs to be an app software. So then we kind of went down that sort of journey.
What do you think sets Heat Engineer apart from the other solutions on the market right now?
I like to think that we are incredibly dynamic and really flexible in providing what solutions our customers want. So, and I think part of that tool set is having. There is a massive advantage having a small team compared to you've got a team like 150 employees or something like that, 50, 100 employees. But having like a smaller team, the communication between each other is going to be far more effective.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no kind of like a huge hierarchy of like people signing off on a certain feature. Literally, if we come up with an idea that morning, plenty of times in the afternoon it's been implemented.
You know, get it out the door almost instantly.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think, you know, that's something I'm really, really proud about you guys doing, you know, as software engineers. But it always starts with the customers. So the customer has to, you know, we're listening to that feedback. We've done it for years where, you know, they might find us some kind of frustration that lacks a feature, or they might find they want to make an improvement to a feature, and being really responsive into those questions to make it come up with solutions. And I think that's where we have our, you know, biggest sort of, one of our USPs is that we're really responsive in comparison to other software companies, where I've seen over the years this haven't had any developments. Yes, there are a few other companies that are around now for the last sort of year, but prior to those companies, other companies have been really, you know, slightly more larger in size and bigger teams, but they just haven't been responsive in you know, sort of revolutionizing their kind of software, making it you know, more user friendly,
definitely,
you know, and making everyone's lives easier to use, you know.
100%.
You know. Okay, so here's a question for Bradley. What are some of the key milestones in development of Heat Engineer software that you were especially proud of?
Well, I've done a few over my tenure here, so I think I'm going to single out maybe Grenfoss. I worked on an API to integrate their app with our app, so any of our existing customers or customers from their end can sign in using our software and fill out a survey, and using the Go Balancing app, they can retrieve that data and push that survey data into their Go Balancing app to balance the radiators there. What
did you have any kind of like challenges? Because I know it was a really exciting project for all of us, wasn't it? But what was there any kind of particular challenges you thought at the back of your head, like, oh my God, this is an amazing opportunity here to sort of build something? But anything you kind of thought, yeah, it could be a bit of a kind of not a blocker, but like kind of just an extra, a big hurdle that you didn't anticipate? Yeah, definitely. So like some security wise, we were thinking, what API keys we should give to them and what authentication service we should provide to them. Obviously, we don't have an auth server at the moment, so it makes it a little bit difficult. Mm-hmm. So we ended up choosing JWT tokens to authenticate their app to our service, and then the users can also register via JWT tokens as well. Yeah. So we can authenticate the app and the user, so we know that they have access to what data. Yeah. No, brilliant.
Something I was going to expand on from the work that we were doing with Grenfoss was that it was really important for us as a company to be able to very easily interact with other companies when we take on these projects. Mm-hmm. And so the work especially Bradley put in for the documentation of our API really allowed us to very efficiently streamline our development with Grenfoss. And I believe that was something that they've noted. Working with Heat Engineers allowed us to sort of inspire new development.
Yeah, I think also, again, going back on this development milestone question, is that we've realised that more and more companies are hearing about this, and actually the collaboration is important, isn't it? More and more companies want to collaborate with each other. And you know, with our API now, I was making sure I didn't say IPA, API. I think that's just means that it's making more accessible to other companies. You know, there's a CRM system company called Commisoft, so they're going to be we're going to be working in partnership with them. Yes, we've got Grenfoss involved as well. There's going to be a few more, I think, you know, on the horizon as well. Really,
it just means from the user base's perspective, it allows our customers to decide which type of workflow they want to work with. They're not going to be locked down into one system. Like if you don't want to use our app to do your surveying, you can use Magic Plan to survey, and then quite easily convert into our application and allow you to work out your heat loss calculations. Yeah.
So I think another thing which I wanted to point out regarding a unique selling point and what makes us different is that having those collaboration partnerships is really critical. But also going back to this term flexibility, and what I mean by that is that you can use our system in various ways. You can use it as a mobile application, survey on site, or you can use the CAD feature where you can upload a PDF or an image or DXF, different CAD files, and start measuring them to get the dimensions. Or then, as we've got now, is implementing Magic Plan as well. So, really embracing that kind of Lidar. I think I would like to speak more about Lidar and its challenges, at some point along this podcast. But I think, we want to provide flexibility to all our customers. Every single one of our customers essentially operate differently, don't they? And they've all got different needs and expectations. And I think that's why, just because we're going to go down this road here to develop a tool like this, and this is how it works, unfortunately, there's going to be a massive cohort of people that just doesn't suit for. It's just not suitable for them. So that's why we're really kind of branching out. We're like, okay, it does this for you, and it does this for you, So there's lots and lots of different sort of options there. So
Definitely.
yeah, and I think that's the key for us anyway, for being flexible in UPS. Yeah. UPS, USP, USP, isn't it? Not UPS. UPS is a delivery company. Really American.
So, how do you see heat engineering in the future, moving forward and fitting in with HVACs?
Yeah, I think that's a really dangerous question, because I'm always anything that your imagination gets carried away with yourself sometimes. Well, it does for me, and what I mean by that is that if you come up with a good idea and you want to implement it, I'm certainly not going to say it in the public domain.
Don't want to give
Sorry.
it away.
So I don't want to give any kind of ideas. I have got quite a few ideas around. I think I've discussed a couple of them certainly last week in the office. I'm pretty sure I mentioned to you.
You're a man with a business plan for sure.
It's a very dynamic plan, very
Constantly
organic plan. Well, I think it has to be in this industry. Tech. How often does tech change?
It's a living organism for
it is,
sure.
isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
It changes every couple of weeks. There's something crazy that's come out.
Yeah.
So
new
it's
AI stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Exactly.
AI is the future.
Oh my word! Yeah.
Thoughts?
Well, actually, there's another feature. Let me ask this question: what feature did you build, which we haven't yet implemented, but when this goes live, it might be live now. But tell the audience about the.
You're feeding me the answer.
Yeah, about step 8. We're using some form of what are we doing on there? Do you remember?
Yes. So we have a dynamic integration with OpenAI where we can feed the data from our heat loss surveys, and the LLMs are then able to analyze this data and produce suggestions on how best to improve the actual monitoring system. And this can be done via conversational. So many people are used to having to go to ChatGPT to communicate and get a response. But you can do this now dynamically through our website, which will automatically produce a suggestion whenever you go on to the final step of our surveying out.
Thanks for explaining that feature in detail there, Kyle.
No
the other
worries.
bit, which is the icing on the cake, is that there's a little speak icon button, and it can actually read out loud. So again, it's just an added feature where there's some plumbers and heating engineers that just actually, rather than reading it, click on it and it just reads it out. Again,
Easy.
It's just fine.
I think anybody would agree that you were one of the first to be producing a SaaS product within the heating industry. What piece of advice would you have for those looking to create their own piece of software within this industry?
As an engineer, I think it's really important for me, actually, if I'm going to be working on anything new, and I'd like to think this applies to other engineers as well, is that solving problems which haven't already been solved is paramount, because otherwise you're kind of almost wasting resources, and I just think that, so if someone's going to start up another sort of software company, research the hell out of it. And again, that might be really, really obvious. And also having people around you can trust. So with the knowledge and the skill set, I think that's something that potentially I kind of lacked, say 9 years ago, where I was using an awful lot of subcontractors, which is fair enough. You have to, but it is it is a bit of a sort of chicken and egg sort of thing. Is you can't put so much resource and money and expenditure in developing a project, right from the get-go. You've got to build it up sort of like slowly, just to make sure, just to test the water, just to test the water. And I think so, like, the sort of takeaway from this really is that, conducting lots of research to whoever's going to be building this software for you, make sure you really, really thoroughly interview them well,
100%.
And also maybe look at sort of their track record as well. So just because let's face it, I'm assuming if someone is going to do a software company, they're going to be using subcontractors because it happens a lot of the time. But I'm just to sort of finish that question off, though, I'm absolutely super happy now. You guys are in the team, because there's an element of trust. That's another big thing, who can you trust,
You need to
to
have
build
experts
this product
in your
for
domain.
you. Yeah, you got to, so that, someone, if there's an element of a project that you've kind of allocated to someone and they can do it in 2 weeks or a month or whatever, then they're gonna do it with that sort of time frame. And if not,
100%.
then there's going to be, they are going to put the extra work in elsewhere and sort of try and make up for it. It's all about trust, I think, really. So the next person I'm going to ask some questions to is one of our customers, David Brown from Air8 UK. So hi, Dave. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Rich. How you doing?
Oh, we're all good. We're all good. So one of the first questions I'm going to ask you is that what was your first experience like when you first came along and you saw Heat Engineer? Tell us about the first time you used it.
Okay. Well, I could go back to the very beginning.
Which is about 4.5 years ago, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I started domestic surveying 6 years ago, and a very nice chap called Clive Archer, give him a plug, Clive, showed me the ropes on surveying and showed me around the MCS stuff, because prior to that I was working on commercial buildings. Yeah. So I moved from commercial to domestic. Clive he gave me really good advice, gave me his time, but he showed me around the MCS spreadsheet to begin with, which was okay to learn. As a learning experience, I certainly learned a lot from it, i.e. don't use the MCS spreadsheet. I think it was kind of, it was really corrupted at the time, so all the back end calculations were still in it and you could see everything in the sheet, and because it was corrupt, I wasn't really sure whether the calculations were correct in it or not, and it was a really big thing for me. Yeah. And I'd end up using different variations of the spreadsheets, and I'd end up with like 5 or 6 different results. Yeah. So I was like,
pretty messy. Yeah.
It was bad. Yeah. So, but then I realised, well, there must be something else. Something better than this, because I was literally going to site and hand drawing a plan, and then I'd put all the measurements onto my plan. It would take a really long time, and I thought somebody must have devised something that's better than this to use. Yeah, I tried a couple of other pieces of software that were out there, but there was nothing tailored to the actual surveying side of the job that was easy to use. And when I came across Heat Engineer to begin with, I thought, crikey, this is an absolute breath of fresh air, really, because it does everything, and it's in order. Because I've got a bit of ADHD, so for me, for stuff that's already in order is brilliant, because I tend to zone out quite quickly. So I'd know where I could go back to it and know where I've got to. Yeah. And at that particular time, it didn't let you go any further, so you'd follow the steps, but it wouldn't let you pass till you completed the step you were on, which for me was good with my ADHD. So I just thought, wow, this is brilliant, and it was cost effective as well.
How did you find it?
Do you know what? I don't. A plumber set up. I'm not going to plug in, but a plumber gave me. He sent me an email. And he said, "What about this?" Yeah. And literally the link for Heat Engineer. Yeah, yeah. And I went in it. I thought this is probably going to be crap, like the MCS spreadsheet or something. And I went in and I logged in and I thought, can't swear, but blinking heck, that was awesome. And I thought, I'm going to use this. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to use it. I tried the free. I think I had a free go on it first. Yeah. And I thought, I'm just going to jump straight into this. And I've ever since I started using it, I've not looked back. Yeah. And thought, do you know what? I'm for my surveys, I'm going to use something else. And I've not seen anything yet really that can touch it. And what I will say is, like, once you've done the site surveying side of it, and you get back and you work on the back end calculations, which I can do on my iPad Pro now, but I used to go back to my computer at home so I could smoke cigars while I did the back end calculation. And the back end was brilliant as well. And I thought, do you know what, this is so simple. And I must admit the reports were a bit long. I used to get asked like a million questions by homeowners about why is this red and why is this orange and this green, and why is my bathroom the worst performing room, and just all those kinds of. I still get. Well, I've got a sheet.
Do you know we can go into that a little bit more?
So have you taken much advantage of the summary report, which is
the new summary report is shorter. It's another good feature really, because you're not giving the full 26 page.
Yeah.
People are not. The homeowners aren't really interested in that.
Yeah.
All they care about, they do care. I'm not saying they don't care, because people do a lot of research before they go.
Maybe it's a distraction, isn't it?
But it is. It's like a massive mix of stuff that they don't really need to know about.
Yeah.
All they need to know is, the summary page of this is the flow rate, this is the heat pump we're going to be fitting, and you can explain. It's more or less explains itself why you're going to be fitting that heat pump.
Yeah.
Because it meets the heat demand. But I mean, in terms of like the size of the report, it's just a few pages is enough for a homeowner. I think 26 pages. Yeah, the engineer needs to know. I think that's all of the data.
So we definitely listen to individuals such as yourself on that feedback, and that's when we ended up going from the full report option to the summary report. So you have those two options now, and that's just another example of how us, we like to be proud of trying to be dynamic as possible.
It allows us to iterate quickly, especially when we have good communications with customers like yourself.
Yeah,
it really allows us to spot the key issues within our application so that we can meet your demands as soon as possible.
I've been using it a few years, and there has been. Whenever I've suggested something, it's been implemented more or less. It's like when we talked about the copy feature, where you can copy and paste the U values or anything.
Well, the copy all feature, because I think you told us about 3 years ago that one.
Yeah,
actually,
because it was really.
This is in version 1.
I missed version 1.
That's
You said you weren't going to talk about version 1 and 2.
What did you?
I was going to ask you what you liked about version 2.
Actually, so Dave, you've spoken quite highly about the software. Thank you very much. Regarding the challenges, though, what challenges have you faced using the software in the past and present, if any?
No, I think there's like. I've given like lots of suggestions about stuff that should happen in it, and it has been done in the main. But I think there's the list probably still ongoing, because we always talk about
it's
the
always
list.
growing,
and
it's always looking to bring more for customers.
But I think that the main one, I guess, that everybody who using the software was talking about when we were on the trade show, was the switch between version 1 and version 2.
Yeah.
And for about 3 weeks, or might have been a bit longer than that, it was really challenging for the customer. And I know people were really frustrated by stuff not working, the little scrolly thing going round and round in the top left corner, and you're having to refresh every second. It was killing me at the time.
So I think that was for our business, the whole team. That was a really super challenging time for us as well, and because the forefront of my mind is that I always want to keep customers happy, and I losing sleep and thinking, I think going back, and if you just tell the audience that we had version 1 of our software almost like for 7-8 years, and the tech stack was very dated, as Carl will probably point out to you in a bit, so we're going into sort of some techie sort of terms in a minute, but we knew that things need to be thoroughly tested, so we tested them as you would do with any software. You test, and we were more than 100% confident that it was going to be smooth transition. Within sort of 5 hours, all of a sudden we realised that this particular feature's not working. What's going on here? Let's fix that. This feature's not working. Hang on, we tested that was working. What's going? So it's from my perspective, it was incredibly frustrating because we would never release the product if we knew it was going to cause glitches, And I think going from it was a big. I mean, that's a big project to do. Going from taking something which is version 1 to version 2, it's literally everything had to be rewritten, like everything.
Yeah.
And it's going through that process, that transition. Yeah, it was those 2 to 3 weeks really. I think it was more like kind of 2 weeks. Really,
it was 2 weeks full on, and then that final week
it was
of
like,
trying to
and I think
sorted.
no matter how much help we helped everyone, there was still a lot of frustration. And
I just
fortunately,
noticed on the online forums they were talking about it.
Yeah,
and,
no, I saw it, and I was like,
they were frustrated and looking for other software to use, which wasn't very helpful to you or to anybody really.
So thankfully though. Thankfully,
come through the other end now.
We've come through it.
We have a lot more stable of a product now.
Yeah.
There's never going to be an easy launch day at all. But as far as the technical team went, we were working non-stop. We were doing 10-hour days trying to get this product to a state that was perfect for our customers. I think you can always look back and think, oh, we could have done it in a different way. But moving forward, I believe that we've restructured and we're in a position now where we're releasing updates much faster than having to wait for this big version 2 to launch, but we're also able to bring out these features that we just wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't moved over to this new stack. So I think in the long run, for the customers that are sticking with us, I think that they will be grateful that we've done this big update.
Well, we're definitely through the storm now. That was just so anyone watching this video and familiar with just new to our company now. So version 2 of our software was launched in March this year, 2024. But we're definitely through that storm now, and any kind of new features we're releasing now it should not cause any disruption. It doesn't, because we're not rebuilding the whole system anymore. That's done. So I think, but it's nice to sort of reflect on that. I did ask you a question in what did you find challenging? It's that one.
That was a big challenge, but that wasn't a big challenge for you. It was a big challenge for all your customers at the time, and I think everyone I speak to, they understand that it wasn't quite working out as you intended, and you did a lot of apologising. But sometimes when you're in business, apologies to your clients don't cut it.
It's any software company goes through those hiccups, like Microsoft, for example. In fact, they had a big one, didn't they, recently?
CloudStrike.
Yeah, was it that?
CrowdStrike.
So it's just so you can have resources are endless, in the sense, and have the most intelligent people working with you, and the maximum effort and stuff. But actually, these mistakes, these kind of software hurdles, they still come about somehow. You think, how the hell you had a plan of action, you've had everything, a contingency plan, everything, but somehow something bad happened, so you just can't plan it. But no, it's and I think
I think you've moved on from it quite well. And I think that the future for engineers looking really good. If you're a surveyor and you want some software that you can actually use on site, without having to draw a floor plan, although you can now with Heat Engineer, it's really useful. Some people don't really get along with technical stuff, some people. I can just imagine some plumbers trying to draw a floor plan, and they're not really going to get to grips with it. But going through the Heat Engineer process, they'll be able to do that quite easily. And what I will say is, I've used other software it is quite technical to use, and this I will say this is just easy, and it's intuitive, and it just works. So the end result. Okay, it's only ever as good as the person that inputs the information at the beginning, but it'll give you the result from the information that you've inputted. The other thing as well is that one good thing about it was when I first started, I didn't necessarily know all my U values, but there was a list already in Heat Engineer that I could refer to.
And the photos in there now as well.
Taking photos is really good as well. So I can take photos of, the full wall with the radiator on. So I can say, well, even if I make a note and say, well, this is the current size and this is what size can fit in that space. So that note's already on there. So when I go back to do my RADs list, I can work out then quite quickly
Yeah.
what radiator size can fit in that space. I just think it's been a good journey.
I know you've given us
for me.
loads of feedback and stuff, but just for anyone watching this video, is there any kind of like future enhancements you'd like to see in the
There's
software?
tons of stuff, Rich. But if I give it all away,
Yeah.
I mean, you'll stop paying me, won't you? But I mean, I will say about other pieces, other software providers over the years that have approached me for information. And I must say, £100 Marks and Spencer's voucher is not going to get all my information out of me. Rich has paid me quite a lot of money. No, he hasn't really. But, you know, I do like a joke as well. But, I think in terms of, I'd like to, for a form creation would be good. So you can create your own company forms within the document, for instance. So that if you do want to make more some larger, I know there's a section for notes in there, but sometimes you could have like an company introduction, let us say. So, you know, and also, I'll tell you what we do now, we send a text to the client to let them know that coming. That'd be quite cool if you could just say, it sort of ran in the background, so you can send a text to say, I'm coming to do your survey at so-and-so time.
Yeah.
And then it'll send another one 24 hours before. We do that as surveyors anyway, but
I think that's
there's
part of
lots
the
other
that's like
features.
part of the CRM sort of like system, isn't it?
It
which,
is really,
which
but-
actually I think, to be fair, Commusoft have got that feature. I think, but there's going to be some kind of, but that's definitely going to the realms of CRM, isn't it? So
It is a bit, but you're looking after the survey booking side of it as well, and I think that would be really nice. And then you've got a fully rounded system, then haven't you, where you can book your own surveys in and have full communication with the client.
Yeah.
That's one. But I think, you know, as soon as you can build something that'll fit to a drone, and I can just fly my drone around and it'll take all the measurements, and I won't necessarily have to speak to anybody. You know, you can just
Maybe something for
the
version
drone will
3.
knock the door and it let itself in, have a little whiz round.
See, that's like very kind of Aliens, isn't it? Prometheus.
Yeah.
You have the orb and you just throw it in, and it's and actually,
scan the whole room.
I mean, like this. So that that tech does actually exist. It's not an orb, but it's a drone.
Book an Amazon.
But the quality of it,
engineer survey.
I was looking at it a couple of years ago, and I was like, this is amazing. And actually, but it's the whole resolution, and you can imagine, because essentially it's kind of like Lidar, right? It's this Lidar on a drone. And that's really, really feasible and stuff. But you know, you can imagine that it's going to be too
You'd have
heavy.
to have the
You
drone.
could only do small sections as well, because it'll get to the top floor and just be exhausted.
Well, you need to take a rest.
No, we'll talk about LiDAR.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a LiDAR feature in Heat Engineer that I've got to be honest, never used it.
No. So one of the things.
Sure.
So I think Lidar is one of these definitely new, innovative. That's a word.
There we go.
Products which quite a few companies in the heating world are really embracing. And I just think that if you really, really want the LiDAR to work in your iPad Pro or your iPhone Pro, because they're the only models that do it, you need to really invest a lot of resources.
Yeah.
And I'm on about staff and money, to do that. And so what we've done as a business, we kind of looked at, because there's so much customization we need to do in ours. What we've done is really sort of take on board another company, Magic Plan, that we can utilize their resources instead. So and so Magic Plan is because you use Magic Plan as well, and I think that they are a surveying company. They are a software surveying company. They specialize in it. They've been doing it for like 8-9 years, something like that. And I just think that utilizing their tool in our system, like other companies are starting to do, to be fair.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes sense, really. My first meeting with Magic Plan was 3 years ago, and I was asking them questions about vaulted rooms, and I didn't want to use their API because I thought, well, I only want a complete solution. If it can't do with vaulted ceilings, I'm not interested. Apparently it's on the horizon. But I just want to sort of point that out, so that we've had these conversations back 3 years ago, because it would appear to make sense. But even then, I thought, no, it's not a complete solution, so I'm not particularly interested in it. So, but look, people are really pushing us this way, and so we've again, it's going to that comment I made about being flexible with our customers. If our customers really, really want it, we'll provide it to them. We'll build it. And I think in this case, we're embracing the LiDAR, Magic Plan have done a great job of it. But let's just use them, and it you know, all the projects from your Magic Plan system are sucked in, brought in into Heat Engineer dashboard beautifully, all the dimensions. Another question for sort of Bradley to talk about, you know, the excitement he went through building it. So, you know, so I think, the Lidar, it's good.
Do you still get excited about like Heat Engineer? Do you wake up every day feeling pumped and ready to go?
When I come up with like an idea and it's like, I really want to do this, then yeah, definitely. Yeah, then like any business, there's always kind of hurdles and stuff, ups and downs. And I think that sometimes when I've had low days, I'll go in and there's almost going to slap myself around the face, think, no, we need to do something here. Right, I need to cheer myself up. Let's go and buy everyone some Gales.
Yeah.
Get the pastries in.
Yeah.
No.
You can't beat a cake.
No, I think that the reality is that we've got some. Well, there's Heat Engineer is a product that I've thought of and created, and I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and we're at a stage where we've got a team as well. Our parent company, Greener, they're supporting us, and I think that is just a brilliant story for me to sort of remember. You know, when I'm sitting in my chair, rocking chair.
It's impressive stuff.
You know, and just to remember that, you know, it's nice to take an idea, design, concept, etc., and then make it, and then also have like build up a really good sort of like team around it as well. You know, because without the people, it's nothing, absolutely nothing. But there's always going to be a lot more stability and strength when you have your own internal team as employees, you know, and because you can get everyone's goals and missions goals can get aligned better. There's no deviation or distraction. It's like, you know, part of the Heat Engineer software team, and you know, it's what I do 9 to 5.
Well, it's important when it comes to the development side of things. You need to have sort of standards in the way that you do developments. So, like when you've got that internal team that you can have accountability, it really allows you to create a product that has sturdy foundations that you can just continue to iterate off of, and to bring new features. Because what you have when we were dealing with like version 1. Due to its sort of asynchronous nature of the way it was built, there were many features applied with different ways of applying it, which meant that when it came to iterating and bringing new features to customers, which at the end of the day, for us, that's the most important part of any business, right? It meant that it was difficult in version 1 for us to bring out new stuff. Version 2, though, because we have this core team, we can quite quickly bring out the features that you request.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the software, like Rich originally said at the beginning of this podcast, he wanted to quit. He started using a spreadsheet because it was making his life easier. Well, the software does that for everybody that uses it, so that the features need to reflect. Because where we save money as like surveyors or even installers is time.
Oh my God,
money.
You took words out of my mouth. I was about to say time. This is the real, you know, another key word. Again, flexibility, but time. You know, we give you. I think the software gives back time. That's it. It's the most valuable commodity, isn't it?
It kind of gets you to where you need to be quickly.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And if the journey is a slow one to get the same result, why would you use something else? Really? As a business, I couldn't afford to spend an extra 15 minutes drawing something out on CAD. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then trying to get the result from that. It's just, why would you? You know, a few simple room measurements and some detailed information about the building, and you're away. You know, you get the result that you need. The hot water generation as well, super quick. You know, I haven't got to do anything really apart from throwing a few numbers at the hot water generation page, and it tells you exactly what you're going to be getting, how long it's going to cost, how much it's going to cost you. You know, per year.
Do you think again? Have you used the MCS Assist feature much?
No,
because I mean that's a fairly sort of new feature. It's
been that's like an installer would use that more so.
Yeah, that's true. I guess so. Yeah. So we got so the MCS Assist is the heat pump performance estimate, and we bring in all the data automatically from the EPC. That's another.
What's the difference between the EPC outcome and the outcome of Heat Engineer? Because obviously, Is that based on a gas boiler?
Are you talking about like the energy from the heating?
Yeah.
Yeah. So typically, I mean, knowing this for the last sort of like 10 years now, is that an EPC will have the energy rating typically about 25% over what it is in kind of. No, hang on, I've got this the other way around. Sorry. Because we use degree day data, and it's absolutely worst case scenario. Like you've got the heating on and throughout all the heating season.
Yeah.
And that it's often that people will fluctuate with their heating demands. The energy value that's in typically a heat loss calculation, room by room heat loss calculation, tends to be very a lot higher than reality. But there is a disclaimer there saying that this kind of is worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But so when you look at an EPC, it tends to be like 25% less than
Right.
that.
You get questioned with quite a lot. So I do retrofit assessments.
Yeah.
For Eco4 projects, and you get asked a lot by coordinators and their clients, well, how come your data doesn't match the EPC?
Yeah.
And then you have to say,
the
EPC is based on an average of so many houses of that particular house type. It's not necessarily tailored to that property either.
Yeah, well, it doesn't use degree day data.
No, well, I don't think it would.
No, I mean that's the thing. It's and I think it's another kind of improvement to our software is actually using real data again. Looking at someone's meter reading and say, well, actually, you can enter those in for your running costs and do it that way. There's just so many things you can do with that, really.
Yeah.
So just want to say thanks to Dave for coming on and saying, giving us some feedback and being very truthful about his experiences. So I really appreciate that. So thanks,
No problem
Dave.
at all.
Cheers.
Enjoyed being here.
So we got Bradley back in the room on the table with a mic. I want to ask this question to Bradley. What do you say is your biggest achievement with Heat Engineer so far, either personally or as a company?
Well, I think I've just grown generally as a software engineer. I've learned so many things working as a team and the way you work as a team and all the packages we should use for development experience. But I guess for Heat Engineer, working with Grenfoss, the integration and putting out CAD for the customers, so just to reduce time generally. I think those are my best features.
Do you think you had any kind of influence on any particular software tools that the rest of the guys are using that you're kind of quite happy you mentioned that to the team?
Not really, but maybe because when Val was here, we also when he was bringing me to the office to and from home, we would always talk about what features we should use and how we can help the team. So I think Docker came up a few times, and then also Sentry, stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, I would say that one thing I think we pushed for it initially when I joined the company, but I think having Bradley come on board really helped push us forward in the sense that we need to do this, was migrating away from using Bootstrap to using Tailwind, just because, I mean, there's continuously endless things to say about why Tailwind's better, but I'd say it's a combination of developer experience and also the ability to produce custom UIs that are just aesthetically pleasing, that I feel like when we were using Bootstrap, our app felt very much like it was any other app that was using Bootstrap. I'm sure you could expand on that.
Yeah, of course. Because with Tailwind, you can be creative. You can just customize everything. You don't have to be focused on using the Bootstrap components. And they don't have to look like any other app. And because we're using Spartan now as well with Tailwind, we can customize our own components.
Is that difference between having to rely on this external dependency compared to actually having the dependency be from within your actual code base, so that there's never a reason where you go, well, I would like to do it this way, but the component was never designed this way, because you can then define how you design the component. It's I feel like it's quite a new thing coming up. Right?
Yeah. Well, you have control over all the code. You don't have to rely on anything else, a third party.
That's good. I mean, that's pretty important. It gives you more security, doesn't it, as well? What do you think might be next on the horizon? And this could be aimed in the kind of. Have you guys seen anything in the software world where you thought, actually? I mean, let's not talk AI because we know it's been exhausted there. So, but like, I mean, is there anything next on the horizon you kind of think this could be a really good tool to utilize? You can say no. We know everything.
Tech is always, it's always evolving. So I think for us as a company, I wouldn't say it's necessarily on the tech side of things, but we're looking to make that transition away from using Angular on the front end to more modern Next.js React, just because it allows for us to basically produce the same product, but in half the time. And often, especially when you're using something like a meta framework for React, it provides an opinionated approach to producing a product, which means that bringing on new developers is going to be a lot simpler for us, because if you've worked with Next.js, you know how you're meant to be writing Next.js. I'm sure you could expand on that as well.
Yeah, definitely, because React is the most common code base out there. JS framework
may not be the most efficient.
Why do you think it is? Why is it the most common?
Well, Facebook originally pushed it out when they developing their own website, and they created this framework in-house and they open sourced it.
Okay. So it's Facebook really kind of driving it.
Yeah. Well,
I would say almost in its simplicity as well and ease of use. Mm-hmm. I think Angular is a very sophisticated bit of toolkit, but an issue that I have with it is that I find that it's often a lot more complicated to produce something that you could very simply produce with React. Mm-hmm. I've never really understood why they make it so complex. I think the transition to signals has simplified things dramatically. Mm-hmm. Like, we were a bit unfortunate as that when we started building with Angular, the signals was just on the horizon. So a lot of our code base is still written with RxJS, which I think is an amazing piece of tool. Like, I love RxJS, but for very simplistic things like triggering a button, you don't really need to be using observables. You can just quite simply use a signal to achieve the exact same thing. If
you could describe the journey of Heat Engineer software in one word or one sentence, what would that be?
I'm quite a visual person, right? So, being dyslexic, coming up with words to describe something. So, articulate would be quite challenging. So I'm going to go a bit off piste on this question, and I've got a picture of a boat at sea. Because exactly.
Sure.
So the boat can, essentially, I feel like we've gone through the storm. Going back to that kind of version 2, when we released version 2, and the disruption that it caused for a couple of weeks for customers, which can we kind of apologise for? That was us definitely going through like a big storm that period. So there's our ship, and now I can see the picture of a ship, a beautiful horizon, and so it's steady as she goes, sort of thing, I think, and there's so much like excitement. The ocean is a representation of all of our features and features that we haven't yet discovered as well.
All the fish in the sea are.
Yes, apparently there's more surface of the bottom of the sea we haven't discovered than surface on the moon.
Just like all the features that our users are yet to discover.
Yes, exactly. Do you know what? Actually, that's probably one of the disadvantages of our software. We have so many features that actually it's so hard to tell someone about those features in a space of like 10, 20 minutes, half an hour. Because when you show someone a feature, you've got to spend a couple of minutes demonstrating it, right? So they understand the purpose of it. And I think that it's got so many. You could have all day and still not get there, really. Just thinking about it, I probably could get it all in one day, actually. But it just goes to show how extensive it is.
Well, I think that's an important thing for us, is that we're going to be producing a lot more content around our software, so that the user base has that pool of information that they can easily access. Would you not agree?
I totally agree. Yeah. So I want to create more videos, where they are like 20-second long or 1 minute long videos at different points in our software. that it will help all of our users, So I think that's important, and it just highlights that, what's this? Oh, okay, watch this little video. Oh, I got it. Tooltip videos.
Definitely.
It's important, I think,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. What about you guys? What would you kind of describe the journey in one word or sentence?
One word.
In one, could you do one word? Could you describe it in one word?
Don't think so. It's too complex.
It is, isn't it?
One word.
It's not like kind of described to me like a beer, Sweet, bitter, it's this bit of software. It's sweet.
Bittersweet.
It's sweet, yeah, bittersweet. Good. There's so many. It's too complex too. Maybe that is the word complex. No, because that's bad. Because actually, you kind of want it to be it's simple to use, but the depths of it is complex. Going back to the ocean again.
Death March.
You can tell I like the sea. Okay.
I would love to come up with one, but probably best not to.
This was a question really aimed at Dave over there because he's still in the studio. But maybe ask you, Bradley, this. I want to ask this question actually. If a colleague or another company asked you whether they should use Heat Engineer software, what would you say?
Well, obviously, yes.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'd tell them to use it, but I think they would just use it because we got so many different avenues of how to use it, and it's really easy to use. And they don't have to necessarily have a subscription. They can just use it one time for their own house.
So the whole house one as well. Yeah, good point. The one-off purchase as well. Yes, good point. Yeah.
And they'll get the ball rolling. So just having one time they use it, they might buy another one or recommend it to a friend even.
Good.
So,
It's a good
I'd say expanding on what you were saying, especially when it comes to another company, just due to us being a small team that can iterate very quickly, we can quite easily communicate with other companies. And if they require features within our application, it's something that we can iterate and bring out within shorter, I'd say, a period of time. I think we work with a lot of big companies, and large companies, they have to move a lot slower because there's just more cogs.
So they have to. Unfortunately, I think that's the byproduct of large companies. The nature of the beast that unfortunately do work slightly slower, but we are far more adaptable, aren't we?
Yeah.
And dynamic.
We hit the ground running a lot faster.
Yeah. Oh my word, yeah, definitely. That's something we're really proud of you guys for. It's been brilliant just to see work accelerated. Us meeting those deadlines has just been absolutely brilliant to watch.
I'd say a key thing for us at Heat Engineer is that we're able to hit deadlines. And I think that a reason for that is due to our size. Mm-hmm. I think at larger companies, deadlines, they can quite easily get extended because you have to have so many levels of requirements to actually release an actual product. Like you have so many things that need to sign off, so many middle managers that need to sign off on something. Which definitely I've noticed with our interactions with larger firms that we have often been able to deliver a feature much faster than they are able to keep up with us, which obviously then allows us to move on to other requirements that our customers need.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think moving forward with collaborations, because there's quite a few organizations, there's 5 companies that we're working with in collaboration, and I've definitely noticed that you guys developing those tools pull those results a lot quicker than the external companies we've been working with. So it's been great to see that, which kind of gives any of our users reassurance that if you want something built within our application, we're all ears. We're going to listen to it and build it. Whether it takes a day or months. No, that's great. Another kind of odd question I'm just going to ask you guys, right?
Sure.
If the engineer was a person,
Okay.
How would you describe them?
Definitely emphasis on the odd question. If a heat engineer was a person, how would I describe them? consistent. They're a consistent person. I feel like that's always been fundamental for us, is that we're able to deliver a product that our customers can truly rely on our results. We've achieved that via a lot of testing of our calculations, because at the end of the day, if you can't sign off on something and give it to your customer, then essentially why would you be using our product? Like, that's a very important thing. I don't know if you have a description for the person that is heat engineer.
Well, I guess it's like someone who's taken a gap year, really, like from version 1 to version 2. Like,
Yeah.
They've explored some new experiences and then learnt new things and developed on their own.
Yeah, I love
So,
that.
yeah.
The gap year is brilliant. I love
They've grown.
that. They've gone away travelling, come back rejuvenated.
Yeah.
Ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah. No, fair play, brilliant.
As somebody who's always iterating, who's an innovator within our industry, could you think of any sort of wild, yet to be within the market, sort of like a fantasy product that you could introduce within
Yeah.
our software?
So the ideas I've had, they are kind of still kind of in development in my head, and I've had a couple of conversations with a few professors actually. And no, I think I can't disclose those really in the
Okay.
public domain, because I've done this before where I've shared information, 3-4 years ago, 2 years ago, and realised that someone else took advantage of it.
Would you say you feel almost burned by that?
No, I'm not burnt by it. I crack on and go to the next idea.
Because you're just constantly coming up with new things.
Yeah. I'm not going to be. What's the point of being sore about it? It's. I think it's important to
You
move,
almost
move
take
forward
pride
positively.
in it,
The thing is, if you end up it ends up eating you inside. Like just
Oh,
being
man.
really bitter. Going, what a cruel world we live in.
Yeah.
No, it's onwards and next one to the next.
You don't want
Onwards,
to name any names.
upwards and onwards. No, to the next. To the next one. So I think. It's definitely exciting times. And look, we've said this before earlier on that software tech grows so rapidly quickly, rapidly and quickly. Sorry, and I think that whatever heat engineer, if I could write down on paper all the things that I think heat engines will look like next year, I can guarantee that there's going to be loads of other stuff there that I couldn't even think of. Just because whether we listen to our customers or there's new tech that's come out. So no one knows. It's going to be a completely different company as what you think it's going to be, but in a positive light.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be in that kind of positive light. So, yeah. But yeah, I think one of the things I just wanted to say, just finishing up, is that thanks very much for all of you guys being a really valued members of the team, including the guys in the back of the studio. Thanks very much, and thanks Dave as well. Without you guys, this company it simply wouldn't operate as effectively as it is. So yeah, I really appreciate it. So all the hard work. So thank you.
It's very kind.
Yeah, thank you.
I think the whole team was very grateful for the employment that you've provided us and led us through this. I think it's been really rewarding for me in my own career. I've felt like I've grown tremendously from working at Heat Engineer. I'm sure you would have to say the same thing.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Brilliant.
It is my first job out of uni, but I've learnt a lot, and
Continue to always be learning, really.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of our jobs in general. Is just it provides us that ability to continuously grow, but also grow the product. And I think without a strong leader, that it's not easy to do that. So thank you for leading us.
Thanks very much. Cheers. Thank you. Cheers. On that note, I think that's a wrap.